All right, so you're prepping for this metal rolling mill operator interview, huh? Sounds pretty intense. But don't worry, we're going to help you crush it. We've got a ton of great resources from RoleCatcher. It's going to be like having a cheat sheet.
Ha!
Well, not exactly answers, but think of it more like strategies. So you can come up with your own awesome answers.
Mm.
You know, the kind that'll make you stand out.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about some like generic interview tips here. We're going deep,
Yeah.
really understanding what a metal rolling mill operator actually does every single day, the kind of skills you gotta have. And then we'll tackle those interview questions head on, the ones they love to throw at you.
Exactly. So first things first, let's get a clear picture of what this job actually looks like. RoleCatcher's guide is super useful for this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So basically, you're working with these huge rolling mills, right? They're the machines that shape metal. Like,
Mm,
imagine you've got this thick slab of steel and you need to flatten it out, make sure it's got the right, structure and all the properties it needs. And it's not just steel. You're going to be dealing with all sorts of metals.
So, like, what does that mean? Like, I know different metals have different properties, right?
Exactly. You got to know how they react to heat, how they bend, that kind of stuff. It's important to, understand their unique characteristics.
Got it. So it's not just about operating the machine. You need this whole understanding of the materials.
Oh, absolutely. And you got to be hands-on. Comfortable in a manufacturing environment, it can be pretty demanding physically.
Yeah, I can see that. Definitely not a desk job.
No, not at all. But there's a ton of room for growth, too. You start as a junior operator, work your way up to senior, maybe even get into a supervisory or management role. And the pay is pretty good.
It's good to hear. So we've got a feel for the job now. Let's dive into some of the common interview questions RoleCatcher flagged for us. First one, and this is a classic.
Hmm.
What inspired you to pursue a career as a metal rolling mill operator? How do you tackle this one?
All right, so this is where you got to show them you're genuinely interested in this, right? Don't just give them the "it seemed like a good job" kind of answer. Think about what really drew you to this specific field.
Yeah.
What got you excited about it?
Like what? Give me some examples.
Okay, so maybe you've always been fascinated by how things are made, right? Or maybe you love working with your hands and seeing a tangible result, something you actually created.
So is it all right to talk about things like career growth or the salary? Or should we stick to the passion and interest part?
It's all about finding a balance. You definitely want to highlight your passion for the work itself, but you can also weave in those practical aspects in a subtle way.
Like how? What would that sound like?
For example, you could say something like, "I'm drawn to the challenge of mastering these complex machines, and I'm excited about the opportunity to build a long-term career in a field that's so important to a lot of industries. Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Okay, next question. What technical knowledge and skills make you a good fit for this role? So here's where we get into the nitty-gritty.
Right. Totally. This is your time to shine. You got to connect your skills and experience directly to what they're looking for in the job. Talk about your mechanical knowledge, your understanding of metal properties, your experience with operating machinery. Anything that shows them you can jump right in and get things done.
And this is where RoleCatcher's AI comes in, right? It can analyze the
Yeah.
job description and highlight those specific skills they're after.
Exactly. You want to use those keywords in your answer. So let's say the job description mentions proficiency in hydraulic systems, right? Make sure you emphasize your experience with those systems. It shows them you've actually paid attention to the details and that you're the perfect fit.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on to question number 3. How do you ensure the quality of the final product? This seems like a big one.
Oh, yeah. Quality control, it's huge in this role. You got to show them you're meticulous, you pay attention to every detail, and that you can catch any defects and address them. Walk them through your process, how you monitor the rolling process, what tools you use for measurement and inspection, and how you document everything.
And what if they hit you with a follow-up question? Like, let's say they ask, what do you do if you spot a flaw in the metal?
That's a great question. See, that's their chance to see your problem-solving skills in action. Don't just describe the problem. You got to walk them through your thought process step by step.
So, like, how did you figure out what was wrong?
Exactly. What were the clues? What resources did you use? What steps did you take to fix the problem?
I see. So it's not just about having the answer. It's about showing them how you get there.
Precisely. The key is to show them you're proactive, you're resourceful, and you're committed to delivering a top-notch product.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like they're really looking for someone who can think on their feet. Someone who's not afraid to take charge when things go wrong. Okay, let's move on to the next question. This one's about prioritizing. How do you prioritize tasks when operating a metal rolling mill? I imagine things can get pretty crazy in that environment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. things can get hectic on the floor, you know? It's all about being organized and adaptable. You got to show them that you can handle multiple things at once, meet deadlines and just keep things running smoothly.
Okay, so should we talk about specific strategies we use, like to-do lists or, I don't know, some fancy time management technique?
You can definitely mention those things. But even better, you know what really works. Giving them a real example from your experience. Like describe a time when you had a ton of urgent orders coming in and you had to juggle everything. How did you decide what to do first? How did you communicate with your team to make sure everything got done right and on time?
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, question number 5. Tell me about a time you had to troubleshoot a problem during the rolling process. So this is like that follow-up question we talked about earlier, right? But now it's like front and center.
Exactly. This is where you really get to show off your problem-solving skills. But remember, don't just tell them about the problem itself, okay? Walk them through your entire thought process, step by step.
So what was your first thought when you realized something was wrong?
Yeah. What clues did you use to figure out what the issue was? What resources did you use, like manuals or whatever? And then what steps did you take to actually fix it?
And this is another place where RoleCatcher's AI can be really helpful, right? You can practice your answer and get feedback.
Oh, absolutely. It's like having a mock interview, but with an expert who knows exactly what the hiring manager is going to be looking for. Okay, let's move on to question 6. How do you ensure the safety of yourself and others while operating a metal rolling mill? I mean, this is a big one, right? Safety's got to be the top priority.
Totally. This is where you show them, your stuff when it comes to safety protocols.
Right.
And that you're committed to making sure everyone's safe on the job.
Right on. So mention those safety procedures you're familiar with, like things like lockout, tag out for machinery, using your PPE the right way, and those emergency response protocols. You gotta know. You gotta show them that safety is not just a box to check. It's something you take seriously.
RoleCatcher's Guide also talked about staying up to date on all the latest safety regulations. That's important too, right?
Absolutely. If they require any special certifications or training for the role, make sure you mention those too. It shows them you're committed to your professional development and that you're on top of the latest safety standards in the industry.
Okay, question 7. How do you maintain and repair metal rolling mill machinery? Sounds like they're looking for someone who's not afraid to get their hands dirty.
You got it. This is where you get to talk about all your mechanical skills. All that experience you have with troubleshooting, repairing, and doing preventative maintenance on machinery. If you've worked on the same type of equipment they use, that's a huge plus. Definitely mention it.
What if you haven't worked on that specific machine, though?
That's okay. You can still highlight your overall mechanical abilities and your willingness to learn. You could say something like, I may not have worked on this exact model, but I've got tons of experience with similar systems, and I'm a fast learner. I'm sure I could get up to speed really quickly with the right training.
Yeah, that makes sense. Being adaptable and a fast learner are definitely important in any job. Okay, let's keep rolling with these questions. This one's interesting. How do you ensure that the metal rolling mill is operating at maximum efficiency? So it's not just about running the machine. They want to know you're thinking about the bigger picture.
You got it. They're looking for someone who's proactive, not just waiting for things to go wrong. Talk about those strategies you use to keep everything running smoothly. Like, how do you minimize downtime? How do you anticipate any bottlenecks that might slow things down?
So it's like thinking ahead and finding ways to streamline the whole process.
Exactly. And if you can, give them a real-world example, like maybe you found a way to reduce waste in a previous role, or you made a process faster that was causing delays.
And numbers always help, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, by using a new checklist, I was able to cut down on scrap metal by 5%, something like that. Quantifiable results.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. How do you ensure that the metal rolling mill is operating within regulatory and environmental guidelines? So this is about being responsible and knowing the rules.
Absolutely. Talk about your understanding of the regulations, your commitment to staying updated, and how you make sure you're following all the protocols.
And this is another area where RoleCatcher's AI can be super helpful, right?
Oh, totally. The AI can analyze the job description and pinpoint those specific regulations or certifications they want. It's like having a personalized cheat sheet, tailored for each interview.
Wow, that's amazing. So we've covered a ton of ground today. The job, those tough interview questions, and how RoleCatcher's AI can really give you an edge. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners before they head into that interview?
You got this. You're already doing the right things by preparing and thinking about these questions. Just remember to show them your passion for metalworking, highlight your skills, and let your personality shine through.
And don't forget those real-world examples. They make all the difference.
Absolutely. Now go out there and rock that interview.
And that's a wrap for our deep dive into becoming a metal rolling mill operator. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into a different career path. Until then, keep learning and keep growing.